I'm Adriana Contreras Correal. I'm originally from Bogota, Colombia. Very honored to be here with all of you and with you, and to have this opportunity to have a conversation and to learn from two people that I admire very much, and from whom I've learned for many years. And thank you to Heather and to Vines in general for this opportunity. Especially as an immigrant, even though I've been here for almost 30 years, I still consider myself a newcomer, and also a big responsibility to hold the local and the global, and the connection between North and South. And so just this beautiful space to have a conversation this afternoon with good food, good company. So we'll start with just introductions. So I will get you to please introduce yourselves and to share one or two highlights of your trajectory in the LANDBACK movement.
Hi chika, siam, hi chika. Asiam nasiaya, Anthemary Point, Tanitana xʷməthkʷəy. Ia to e, come kamala. Ichla hachkapay. Ichla ayalmoch. Ichla makwam. Ichla squayos. Ichla xʷməthkվəy. nlaka'pamux. In the language of my ancestors, I let you know, my name is Mary Point, I'm from Musqueam. Today we're gathered on the outskirts of a large village that we called xʷməthkվəy, the place of the broad-leafed maple. And to the east, hachkapay, a good place to harvest cedar. To the west, ayalmoch, a gathering place. To the southeast or southwest, makwam, the boggy place, the home of the sifki, the two-headed serpent that slithered across the land, carving out our streams and creeks that led to the river. That creature left in its wake a beautiful purple reed with a floret on the end of it. This became known as the xʷməthkվəy plant. And it was not only abundant along the shores of the creek beds, but also along where the river meets the ocean. We became known as the people of the xʷməthkվəy, the xʷməthkвəy, and the people of the river grass. To the southeast, pardon me, I'm trying to keep myself oriented. To the southeast, Squayos, just up the hill, a place of panorama. And I have to say, when I was coming here from my home in Richmond, as I came across and reached the crest of the hill and looked down, I love nothing more than to see the mature maple trees alongside the roads, and to see in front of me the mountains, especially the Twin Peaks, the Peacemakers, the two sisters, because my grandmother, Lil'Wat, is from the North Shore, and we used to sit on her porch and she would share stories of climbing the mountain to gather berries and medicines, and we would be able to see the Twin Peaks in the distance. And when I'm driving through and seeing those large maple trees and seeing those mountains still largely untouched, I know I'm looking at the same views that my ancestors looked at, and that makes me feel more connected to this place. And I'm really only mentioning a few little places in this vicinity, but it should be known that there were lots of other hunting hides and berry picking spots and special courting spots and places of ceremony, but those aren't all mapped. But we know they were here, and so I'm mindful that whether we think of this place as the downtown east side, or we think of ourselves in Metro Vancouver, or just the city of Vancouver, collectively, we always think of this place as xʷməthkվəy, our home. I'm really pleased to be part of this conversation together, and I was asked just to share maybe a touch point or two of, I forgot to say, the very last words I said were nlaka'pamux, those are really important to our family because they mean all are welcome to enter this place. So this journey that we've been on, how we even have come to know one another, for me, I think back to, first of all, my ancestors. Our first ancestors are said to have descended from the sky, wrapped in clouds. And as they began to make their home here, it was evident that not everyone was meant to be a two-legged creature. So our teacher, Charles, came amongst our people and transformed some of our people into rocks and trees and flowers and birds and fish, etc. And so that for me is the beginning of my feelings that we are the land and the land is us. For me, the real turning point and connection to activism in terms of protecting our land came in 2012 for our village of Seislom, which is in the vicinity of what is now known as Marpole and around the shores beneath the Arthur Lang Bridge. That area was a large port city documented by the Spanish and the English when they came through the area, and they noted that there were thousands of Musqueam people living in that village site, that port city. And when they encountered us, they brought with them sickness, and in fact, 800 of our relatives were buried by the incoming colonizers in a mass grave. 800 all in one place, just in the area of the budget rent-a-car there at the foot of the bridge. But while the newcomers were coming in and we were faced with lots of trade negotiations and changing rules and regulations and eventually the Indian Act, and we were pushed off that land, with those newcomers came a whole bunch of archaeologists. Some who I would just say are so-called archaeologists. And they recognized, just by looking at the land, that there's much evidence that we have lived in that village of Seislom, for example, since the first sunrise. So they decided they would start to dig. So they dug down. And what is unique about that area and the delta that passes Seislom is that it's protected or preserved all of our items and belongings by the sand and the silt and the shells. They actually hold our belongings and our late loved ones almost intact. As the further you get inland, or as the land grew and expanded with the changing environment, when they dug down, they could see through the layers of time, copper, slate, bone, wood, the materials that they used, but they could also see the unique markings that represented our Musqueam people. And this was known to the point where the federal government of the day in 1926 declared the village of Seislom, even though we'd all been pushed out of there by then, a National Historic Site. And with that came regulations that you can't dig there anymore. The land's been dug up and they've made a mess, desecrating our grave sites and our belongings. So the government decided enough is enough, and we know this is a National Historic Site, rich with evidence of long past occupation of the land by our family. And but I'll fast forward to 2012 when a property owner, he owned 5 lots and he had like a little garage where he did car repairs. He decided it was time for him and his wife to cash out, and they sold their 5 lots to a developer who started to dig. And I distinctly remember the day at my job in Musqueam, where I was working as community planner. I distinctly remember the day my cousin Wayne Point, came into the office. He's an archaeological monitor, and he'd been coming over the Arthur Lang Bridge, and he could see a pit with 2 adults, 2 children, laying exposed on the lot on our former village of Seislom. So he had gone into the site, and he said to the developer, there's an archaeological covenant here, you cannot dig here, and they pretty much threw him out. And he did let them know that he has authority to call a work stoppage. But so he came back to the office, and there was an emergency meeting with our elected officials who contacted the developer and offered to buy the property at full commercial value right on the spot. And they refused. And they said, we don't really believe it's as valuable as you say, so we'll just pay a fine. And the trigger point for us in community was we found out that they're digging up our late loved ones, but if you went to a grave site on Fraser Street, for example, and started digging up a cemetery, you would be arrested because it's against the law to dig up a cemetery. But our burial site, even though the government buried us there, are still just considered archaeology. And we fall under the Heritage Act, not the Cemetery Act, and so that there would be fines. And so when they said they wouldn't even let us buy it, and we even offered another piece of property for them to take on, this was really upsetting. So our elders and community members had a meeting, and we decided we needed to go down the next day and occupy the space. So me and my sister Cecilia Point were the first ones on site the next day at 5 a.m. And at that point, I just want to say, I had never protested anything in my life before that time. Never. It never occurred to me. I had my own problems, like everyone, and it just never had happened. But there was something really powerful about what was happening there, and it was really important that we get there. But because I never protested, I thought, I don't want to get arrested either. So I had a friend who was actually acting police chief for the city at the time, and I phoned him up and I said, this is what we're doing. Make sure we don't get arrested. And so when we arrived there at 5 in the morning the next day, for sure there was a cop car sitting right there. And my sister is like, oh, what's going to happen? I'm like, I don't know, but I phoned Andy, and so I'll phone him again if I need to. So we just set up a sign and stood in front of the gate where people would come in to work. And the property owner came along, and I said, sorry, you're not going to work today. And he was like, yeah, right, get out of my way. And then he tried to push me, and there was no way we were moving. So he went over to the police car, and he said, you need to arrest these 2 people. They're blocking us from getting to our work. And the police officer said, actually, we don't know what all the rules are here, but did you disturb a gravesite? And so that was the beginning of it. And so long story short, I'll say so many things I could say that happened after that, but we stood there for 200 days and 200 nights. And I was amazed at how many people came from all over the world, actually, to come and stand with us. And there were lots of people as they were finding out through our actions. We blocked the bridge, we blocked city streets, we did all kinds of activities to try and educate others. We started a petition for people to sign that we could send to the premier. All of those actions were shining a light on the fact of what was happening. And as soon as people heard someone has opened a grave, every denomination came out to do ceremony at our site because they knew this was wrong. And teachers started to bring their students from kindergarten to PhD to come and learn. And how many people, even in the neighboring area, who may have come originally to file a noise complaint because we had our drums out 24/7, when they found out what was happening, they were like, I didn't even know there was Indigenous people here in 2012. And so lots has happened since then, and I'll just fast forward to after 200 days, where the interest in supporting us kind of ebbed and flowed, and sometimes near the end, some days it was just me or Cece standing there at the site protecting it along with some of our cousins. And but eventually we managed to hold and give notice and get the government to support us, and they canceled the investigation permits, which is what they were proceeding forward on. There's lots of technicalities about development, which I won't get into at this point, but I learned a lot about it, and they ended up selling us the property in the end, but not for the original offered price that we gave them, because they were stuck at, they were still just zoned industrial. They never did do their public meeting to get zoned residential or any of that. They really just pushed past every rule. So we bought it for base value. Anyone who had put a deposit on the property wanted their property back. They didn't want to live on top of a graveyard. And it was an amazing, amazing time. And I met so many people through that time period that came to support us. And it was soon thereafter that came I Don't Know More and Walk for the Reconciliation and all of those things. And there's a movie, Seislom, the city before the city, and in community, because we met so many people who didn't know anything about us at all, we opened a museum, and we also helped 2 other museum exhibits, all titled the same thing. So it was really an amazing time for a day when I remember that day just saying, we have to do something, but I had never done anything like that before. Done lots of stuff since, but not then, and it was quite something. So I think that's enough from me for now. Just land back, yeah.
Where do I start? I've to Nahom to Yahan, Childhood, Richton, Mechelle Pierre, and Squashed. How are you today? I hope that you are fine. That's my heart good to see you. My name is Mechelle Pierre Moon. My late mother, Sarah Moon, is in nlaka'pamux. My late father is nlaka'pamux. My grandfather, part to nlaka'pamux, is nlaka'pamux. My late maternal grandmother is nlaka'pamux. My paternal grandmother, Chitwout, a lot of you say Okanagan, and my late paternal grandfather, Peter James of Lytton, is nlaka'pamux. They are with me every day. Even though they have gone to the spirit world, I feel their presence. If it is not for them, I wouldn't be here today. Today, what I want to talk about is my healing journey. I was taken away at the age of 9 to a residential school. But before that, my life was beautiful. I was raised by my grandparents, and they treated me like I was more precious than anything. I had freedom, I had adventure. I felt so loved and valued. I didn't know anything else. I thought that that's just how life was. But when I went to that residential school, all that disappeared. And I was devastated, and most of all, I was angry. Because I was raised in a way, where I always thought that I was number one, and these people are trying to bring me down. And I was not going to accept that. So practically from day one, I fought. I remember the very first time I walked into that school, we were brought into this reception room, which we thought was so beautiful. We had cried all the way from our reserve to this residential school because I had initially thought my mother was coming with us. She bought us new clothes, a little suitcase, put some nice things in that suitcase for us. And she brought us to the bus, and we were so excited. You know, we thought we were going to go on a trip with my mother. She put us in there, you know, she got us to sit with some older relatives that were also going to the residential school, and she had asked them to take care of us. So when we realized that she wasn't coming with us, we started to screamed all the way to the residential school. But when we got there, we saw this beautiful room, this reception area. We started to feel happy, because we liked the way it looked. So we waited around in there for a while, and the supervisors came in. They took my brother, they took me, and then they brought him to the boys' side, me to the girls' side, which we didn't expect, because we were always together. Him and I were joined together at the hip, and never ever parted from him. I'm the older sister, I have to look after him. So when they took him away, he started screaming and kicking and crying, trying to get to me. And I was worried about him, and I looked at him, and I tried to go to him. But the supervisor wouldn't let me go, and they wouldn't let him go either. And I fought. That was when I first started fighting. I was fighting to go get to my brother. Next thing you know, I'm washing the floors of that place where near the entrance, as punishment for trying to go get my brother. Less than 15 minutes, I'm scrubbing the floors. And if I missed the spot, I had to go right back to the beginning. And after that, it was just a long series of being punished by washing the stairs all the way from the 3rd floor all the way down with a toothbrush. Got punished for speaking my language. I didn't know to speak anything else. I could only speak my language. Now today, the smattering of words I shared with you for my language is just a tiny little bit of what I remember. I couldn't speak anything else but nlaka'pamux before that. Now, today, I can't even speak it. And I feel so hurt about that. I want my language back. So anyway, so that was the start of where I needed to be healed from that point. And it was terrible. Even though I did go back home for a while, it wasn't home anymore. Everything changed. I changed. I fought everyone. My mother was at home with her broken heart. She had no kids. What else to do? So what did they do? A lot of people turned to booze and all that. Then I got back over there, she was drunk. And those people at the residential school told me that the reason why I was at the residential school was because she didn't want me. And I believed them telling me that every day. Just about I wouldn't have made it. And so that's what I want the young people to learn today.
Auntie, we would like to keep her going. I was aid in squashes of Seislom, Lil'Wat and xʷməthkվəy. Joe kijkers in een stokje, die hebben ze een lampen. De geluid mee, lamp die zo kijkers stokje in de gesta. As I heard the words of my dear sisters here, in terms of the struggles that our people have lived through, I too was fired by Marge. And she called me back when I sobered up.
Should ever fire me.
On May the 10th, 1976. I'll be taking the 49-year sobriety cake on May the 10th at the Free Spirit Group. And we will be bringing out the big drum to sing the AIM song. And I have to say, It was that song, that one song. Something clicked in here. When I say something clicked in here, the truth. I remember the words of my great-grandmother Mechelle when she died. She was just 123 years old, and all my grandmothers in their 90s. What they shared with me when I was just a few days sober. Culture is a white man's word. Did you know it has something to do with bacteria? When they look at a petri dish and looking at this bacteria, that's culture. But our way, from the old timers said, this is the way that the old timers taught us how to live. And we listened not just with our ears, but with our heart and our spirit. And we carried out all the suggestions that they made for us to keep on going. Happy to say today, back home from where I come from, 100 miles northeast of those beautiful mountains, is our land called Lil'Wat. 17 Indian bands traveled to Ottawa in 1910. And there they dropped a document in the House of Commons. And in that document they said, our land is not for sale. And we've not lost this land to war. We've not lost this land to disease. And they most certainly didn't give anybody permission to think they could come onto our land and be our government. That hasn't happened. On May the 10th, there will be a gathering at one of those nations that travel to Ottawa to spend 4 days potlatching, 4 days in ceremony, 4 days in listening to the old ones about what that truth was all about. Nothing to do with the government, and for that matter, we say to the government of the day, you want to do business with us, put the money on the table, and we'll talk, but that's just about it. We don't sell our resources. According to this baby, smoke signals now. There are so many messages on here. I was reminded of the first roadblock that was set up in 1975 back in Lil'Wat, when hand drummers came together and they blocked the road. And you went like this to the logging trucks, no more will you go up into those mountains, cut down the trees. No more will you pave any roads into those mountains. That belongs to the wild. Belongs to the mountain goat, to the deer, to the bear, to the wolf, to the coyote, to all the wild beings. So it took us the longest time to hold them back, to pave that road between Lil'Wat and Lil'Wat. That place up there, that we call Joffrey Creek, we put a moratorium on the public. You will not go into this land between this date and a few months. For that land belongs to us. To go up there and gather medicine. To go up there and do ceremony. And so that's what we do. Whenever I travel between Lil'Wat and Lil'Wat, I will stop at a sacred lake that they call Duffy Lake. And there I will make a tobacco offering. And after I make the tobacco offering, I will sing a song to the sacred loom. As I'm singing that song, that loon will surface. He didn't land there. He surfaced from down underneath to remind us this land still is Yukon land. It is not Indian land, it's not Aboriginal land, it's not Indigenous land, it is Yukon land. This is just the way that they showed us through example. And I thank those grandfathers and grandmothers not giving up on us, for always reminding us. This is our truth. We have a school today that we fought hard to pull all the kids out of the public education system. We started our old school in an Indian day school, grade 1 to 12. Thereafter, I don't know how many decades, we now have our old school, Katala Community School by the mountain. Guess who the teachers are? We are. We work with the teachers and the professionals to remind them at all times our language is the first language, English and French, second and third. Happy to say today that in our struggles, the graduation rate of our kids who are going to school, we were lucky that 40 to 45% of them graduated from grade 12. Now, it's up to 90 to 95% graduating grade 12 and going on to colleges and universities, and we still work with them. And we remind them, when you get your degree, whatever college or university you go to, you come back and see us. We'll put you to work. We'll put you to work. And they have come back. So my hands go up to those people. I want to sing a couple of songs. The first one is a song that one of the chiefs sang in Ottawa in 1910 to let the Prime Minister of the day and the ministers know this is our anthem. We do not recognize O Canada or God Save the Queen. That belongs to the Canadian population. The second song I always sing will be the AIM song. And that is for our field. That is for the struggles that those warriors struggled through, not only to become who they were, but who they are today. They're very much alive, and they are warriors, and we got to keep them working. So this is a song that they sang in the House of Commons in 1910 to let them know this is the anthem song of the Scottish nation, and this is the song that we acknowledge. We do not sing O Canada or God Save the Queen. We throw out the Vatican, we throw out royalty, and we said, our way. Our way. One day I asked my grandma, where did our language come from? And she looked at me and she smiled. And said, it came from my grandma and my grandpa, all the way through the generations, through our ancestors, through all the things that we do in ceremony, through all the things that we do in terms of our life. And she said, as far as she knew, she remembered hearing this from the old ones. Before the language came to be, it came from the wind, it came from the water, it came from Mother Earth, it came from all those wild beings. It's the message on to our ancestors. So when I have a ceremony, whether it be in the sweat lodge or the sacred pipe, I strongly urge all people, go back and learn what the real meaning of what they call God is. Our own creation story. Our own creation story. 3 birds were sent to fly to the sun. The first one, the ptarmigan. Beautiful mountain bird way up in Alpine country. In wintertime it turns pure white. In the springtime it becomes speckled. But because of his short wingspan, he only made it about halfway through. But he came back. And he brought back with him the gift of transformation, the gift of change. The second bird was the one that we call Lil'Wat, the sacred raven. And he was able to go all the way to the sun. But the one thing that came back with him was the fact that he was all black. But he brought back with him mystery. He brought back with him the dark times. And guess what? It's those dark times now that are making ourselves stronger. And I say this to all people, being alcoholics for over 49 years. No matter how bad things get, it changes when you stop drinking, when you stop using drugs. Something inside you clicks. And work with us. We want to work with you. I remember back in the day, in early days of sobriety, maybe 4 or 5 of us would jump into an old Indian Cadillac. You know what an old Indian Cadillac was? An old Biscayne, an old Ford, an old Chevy. And we put $5 into the tank and we'd hit the road. We'd go and share our story with our relatives back home. It's okay not to drink. It's okay not to use drugs. And they listened. The sobriety rate right now, as we are here, are in the thousands. In July, there's going to be a major conference happening here in Vancouver. In that major conference, we will be there in a special suite with our own medicines. To open the door for all people to come in and experience purification and cleansing, to hear the songs, and to do a little bit of sharing. I used to be one of those Indians who was standing over there behind the door when those brothers from the American Indian Movement came into town. I remember them sitting in the center of that hall, and I would kind of like look over and try to listen to what they were doing, watch them. And one day, the brother called me over, the old Eagle Pipe man, Derek Wilson. He called him over. He said, "Sit down." And he handed me a drumstick. I said, "I don't know how to sing." "Let's sit down anyway. And you can't say no to this guy." So I sat down, and he said, "Just hit the side of the drum." He said, "That's your heartbeat." And if they were singing that song, I could feel my heartbeat. And then one day, song. Those warriors who were there, literally, we gotta stop drinking. We gotta stop using drugs. We gotta be a better example to the young people. It's okay not to drink. It's okay not to use drugs. It never was part of our culture or way of life. And besides that, is killing our people. And back then, they were dying without harm reduction. They were dying. So today our message to the young people, we need your help. Come and join us. Come and sing with us. Come and take care of the fire. Come and chop wood. Come and do something to know that what you're doing is worthy. That what you're doing is for the people of the land. We do a change of seasons where I work every 4 months. The next one will be on June the 20th at the Lil'Wat Medical Center. And the house is always full. And there we will go for a purification ceremony, and we will have a feast. All the people will come get to share whatever's on their mind about who we are and where we come. Just last night, or the other night, I got a call from a man who was in prison for a long time. And this man brought me a package of tobacco. And he said, I don't like being here in prison. So I'm offering you this tobacco to start me off with the pipe ceremony. Do a 4-day fast inside that prison in a sweat lodge. And another thing that he asked was, I need to get my own traditional name. And for 4 days, nothing came. But as I was heading back to the prison, all of a sudden, this beautiful red-tailed hawk came and circled around my truck. And I jumped out and I offered some tobacco to it and give thanks to it. So his name was Coco, the one who speaks from above. Now, he's a respected elder in the prison system that held him. And he does ceremonies there. And I told him, we give thanks to those brothers from the American Indian movement, Butler, and a few of the other guys that were there, that were on hunger strike, merely asking for the right, the inherent right, the sovereign right, to practice our own spirituality inside a prison system. That's what opened the door for all of our people to have the inherent sacred right to do our own ceremonies, whether you're in jail, in a hospital, in the community, on the res, or wherever. And that's what we do. And that's what we do. But I said to the Correctional Services of Canada and to the National Parole Board, our spiritual life is not for sale. What does that mean? That means we are the ones who are in charge out here. Whatever they ask for, we will do what we can to take care of that business, because that is just who we are. Because when the old timer said, I remember those words. Napoleon Kruger, rainbow catcher, rolling thunder from Nevada. He said, you don't have to do nothing, Seislom, until they hand you a package of tobacco. So I wait for that tobacco. That is the only thing that I have to work with, is that offering. And I ask them, did you spend some time with this tobacco in prayer to clarify with yourself what it is that you're asking for? Because that is what we pay attention to. ceremony. So when I called Heather here, I said, I'm running a few minutes late, my horse broke down. Broke down last night, broke down this morning, and I scrambled and said, I've got to go get my horse fixed up because I need it. So I said, clear the path, my Father. I'll get you when I get you. Thanking each and every one of you for making the time to come out here. You are all witnesses. You're all witnesses. There's people living out there on the street, in the homes, in the community, and they do call 24/7. I've been getting calls on this machine here, that I call smoke signals. I said, God damn it, one day I'm going to pour some water over you. They do come. They do come. And I know there's always lots of questions. But I urge you, those questions will come up again. And they will be very, very, very important. You know this business about the Pope dying? We recognize him for all the beautiful work that he did with our people in North Toronto schools. But our message to the Vatican, we have our own thank you, and we are doing okay. And we do work with churches. We do work in the community and keep that door open. In closing, I remember the first 4 days I spent in the dead of winter crying out to the Creator. Xʷməthkվəy, who are you? They call you God. They call you Muhammad, they call you Allah, they call you Buddha, they call you by many, many different names. But we know you. We know you. And that sacred teaching came in the form of a golden eagle that flew to the sun. And he came, and when he came back, he carried the fire on his back, on his wings. For our land, that was the beginning of our creation. So our ceremonies to the wild beings, we say to those wild beings, we will protect your land. We don't need any more ski resorts. We don't need any more highways into those mountains. I said, we will keep it as wild as possible. And that is our responsibility. And that is what we try to live up to today. I wanted to find a handout that I took out of the province newspaper. When I find it, I'll give it to you. And you can pick it up. And in that handout, it says to the general population, there will be a moratorium at Joffrey Lake. People cannot go in there to camp. They cannot go in there to hike. They cannot go in there for anything. That belongs to us. That belongs to our people. In regards to medicines, in regards to ceremony, in regards to our way of life. So when I find it, I'll bring it to you. Yeah. All my relations. Cook stuff.
We're closing the afternoon. I know we probably wish to stay here longer. So thank you to Vines for hosting us. We're looking for all the teachings and the gift that you're giving us right now. And please tell your friends to come and see the exhibition and stay around supporting this simple fellow. Thank you.